Let me ask you something. If you had only 1 year left to live, would you still be doing what you're doing today? Would you still be tolerating the same stress, the same meaningless distractions, the same relationships that drain you more than they grow you? Most people don't like to think about death, but here's the truth. Avoiding the thought won't stop it from coming, and pretending you have more time doesn't give you more of it. It just makes you waste what you already have. In Stoic philosophy, there's a concept called memento mori. It means, remember, you must die, not to scare you, but to sharpen your attention, to shake you out of autopilot. Because when you forget that your time is limited, you start to live like it's endless. You scroll, you overthink, you delay the things that matter most, waiting for some perfect moment that never comes. This video isn't here to motivate you. It's not going to sugarcoat the truth. It's here to wake you up. Because life doesn't warn you when it's about to run out. There's no alarm that says, this is your last ordinary day. And yet, every day you postpone your potential, you're choosing a life that isn't really yours. So here's what we're diving into. You can't control how many years you get, but you can choose how deeply you live each one. You don't need to fear death. You need to fear living a life so numb and distracted that you don't even notice it passing you by. Because life is short, but if you live it wisely, it will be enough. Wake up. What if you had only 1 year left? Let's pause for a moment. Forget the to-do list. Forget tomorrow's meeting. Forget what you were just scrolling, and ask yourself this. Genuinely, honestly, what if you only had 1 year left to live? Not in a poetic way, not as a journal prompt, but as a real possibility. 12 months, 52 weeks, 365 days. What would change? Would you keep living the same way? Would you still stay in that job that drains you? Would you keep swallowing your truth just to keep the peace? Would you keep waiting for the right time to finally live the way you know you should? Be honest, because the truth is, most people live like they have forever, like time is a guarantee, like dreams can wait, like joy is something they'll get to eventually. But here's the reality. You don't need to flatline to start dying. Most people don't die in a single moment. They die slowly, silently. In every day they wake up and ignore what really matters. In every year they bury their calling under distraction, fear, or comfort. The Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." That line isn't dark, it's liberating. Because when you live with death in mind, you begin to live with clarity. You stop chasing things that don't fulfill you. You stop pleasing people who don't even understand you. You stop pretending that your time here is unlimited, because it's not. Let's break it down even more. If you knew your days were numbered, would you finally say what needs to be said? Would you finally take that risk you've been postponing? Would you forgive? Would you let go? Would you love more freely? Most people say, of course I would. But then, they go back to living on autopilot. And here's the tragedy. They didn't need more time. They just needed more urgency, more awareness, more presence. And that's what this part of your life is calling for. Not panic, not despair, but a conscious shift in how you show up, starting today. Because the moment you start thinking like someone who has something to lose, you start living like someone who has something to gain. You gain depth, you gain honesty, you gain the courage to do things that scared you before, because suddenly you realize what's at stake. Let me give you a real example. Think about someone you know who had a near-death experience, or who lost someone unexpectedly. How did their life change afterward? They probably started saying, I love you more. They spent more time with people who truly mattered. They stopped chasing the approval of people who never really saw them. Why wait for loss to give you that clarity? Why wait until life forces you to see what you could have chosen to see today? Here's a radical idea. Live like you're dying, because you are. Not in a doom and gloom way, but in the most awake, sacred, intentional way possible. Every day is one less. That's not a reason to be afraid. It's a reason to be fully alive. And maybe that's why you're here watching this right now. Because a part of you already knows something needs to change. A part of you is tired of delaying the life you know you're meant to live. So I'll ask you again, if you had only 1 year left, how would you live differently? And more importantly, why are you waiting? Because time isn't going to pause and let you figure it out. And no one is coming to hand you a permission slip to live on your terms. You give yourself that, and you start now. Live as if your life depends on it, because it does. Live like your time is precious, because it is. And live with the kind of presence that makes each day feel complete, even if it were your last. The real ways we waste our life. Let me tell you something that might sting a little. Life isn't short, we just waste a lot of it. Seneca said it best. It's not that life is short, it's that we waste much of it. And the older you get, the more you realize he was absolutely right. We don't run out of time because the clock is cruel. We run out because we keep giving our time to things that don't matter. Think about it. How many times have you postponed something truly important? A conversation you needed to have, a project you were meant to start, a trip you always said you'd take someday, and someday never came. We say we'll start tomorrow or next week or next year, but we forget that life doesn't owe us more time. It doesn't give warnings. It doesn't schedule reminders. One day just becomes your last, and you don't even know it. And in the meantime, what are we doing? We're obsessing over things that won't matter in a month. We're overthinking texts, chasing validation from people who barely know us. We're scrolling, comparing, judging, defending. We're stuck in arguments that go in circles with people who don't want to understand. We stay in environments that make us feel smaller, not stronger. We stay in jobs that numb us, relationships that break us, routines that drain us. And the worst part? We convince ourselves this is normal, that this is just how adulthood works, that everyone is burned out, distracted, disconnected, so we just accept it. But acceptance doesn't mean alignment. You can survive a life that doesn't match your soul, but that's not the same as living. And maybe that's the greatest danger of all. Not dying early, but living too long in a version of life that's never been truly yours. That's the quiet tragedy. That's the part no one talks about. You see, real life doesn't begin when you reach some milestone. It begins the moment you stop wasting what you already have. So let me ask you something. Where is your time actually going? Because if you track your time, you track your values. If you track your values, you track your priorities. And if your priorities don't reflect what truly matters to you, then your life won't either. And here's the tough love. No one else is going to protect your time for you. No one else is going to rescue you from the noise. That responsibility, that power, it's yours. So be honest with yourself. What are you giving your life to, day after day? What do you keep saying yes to that slowly erodes who you are? Because time is not just something you spend. It's something you become. Choose wisely. What it truly means to live wisely. Let's clear something up. Living wisely doesn't mean living longer. It means living clearer. Most people confuse productivity with purpose. They think a full schedule means a full life, that doing more, achieving more, and impressing more somehow equals wisdom. But here's the truth the Stoics understood. You can be busy and completely lost. You can be admired and still disconnected from your own values. You can be productive every day and still have no idea why you're doing any of it. Living wisely isn't about stacking accomplishments. It's about choosing what matters and letting go of what doesn't. It's about saying no without guilt, saying yes without hesitation when it aligns with your deeper self. It's about not confusing movement with progress. Think about it. How many times have you done something just because you felt you should, not because it reflected your truth? How often have you said yes out of fear? Fear of missing out, fear of disappointing others, fear of being left behind. But wisdom doesn't live in fear. Wisdom lives in clarity. Clarity about your values, clarity about your time, clarity about the kind of life you're actually trying to build, not the one others expect from you. The Stoics taught that the wise live with depth over noise, clarity over chaos, and presence over performance. They're not driven by the need to be seen, they're moved by the desire to be aligned. So while the world chases attention, they chase intention. They don't need to prove anything because they already know who they are. And maybe that's something we all need to sit with. Because in a world that rewards hustle, noise, and constant activity, the wise choose stillness, not as an escape, but as a filter to see clearly, to act deliberately, to live from the inside out. Here's a powerful question. If you weren't trying to impress anyone, what would you do differently? Would you slow down? Would you change careers? Would you say goodbye to certain people? Would you finally give yourself permission to enjoy simplicity? You see, living wisely isn't about doing less or more. It's about living from a place that's rooted in truth. And the truth doesn't scream, it whispers. So if you want to live wisely, don't just ask what you want to do. Ask, why does this matter to me? Is this aligned with my values? Is this how I want to spend my one short life? Because clarity isn't found in doing more. It's found in doing what matters with full presence. That's what wisdom looks like, and it's available to you right now. Time is your most honest teacher. Let's be honest. If someone followed you around for 7 days, no commentary, no explanations, just observing where your time actually goes, what would they learn about you? Would they see someone who values peace or someone who reacts to every ping and pull of the outside world? Would they see someone aligned with purpose or someone caught in the same cycle of busyness and burnout? Here's the thing. Your time doesn't lie. It is the most honest mirror of what you truly value. You can say, my health is important to me, but if you scroll for hours and skip your walk, time will tell the truth. You can say, I want meaningful relationships, but if your days are filled with distractions and you're never fully present, again, time reveals more than your words ever could. The Stoics understood this deeply. They didn't just talk about values, they lived them. And the way they measured integrity wasn't by what you intended to do. It was by what you consistently chose to do with the limited time you were given. Seneca wrote, people are frugal in guarding their personal property, but as soon as it comes to squandering time, they are most wasteful of the one thing in which it is right to be stingy. In modern terms, we protect our money, our data, our passwords, but we give away our minutes like they mean nothing. We let our time leak through the cracks of unconscious habits. Refreshing apps, refreshing gossip, refreshing things that don't refresh us at all. So what steals your time? Is it the black hole of social media, the drama that lives rent-free in your mind? The endless "I'm so busy" loop that masks the fact that you're avoiding the real stuff? Let's be honest again. A lot of our busyness isn't productivity. It's a distraction in disguise. We keep ourselves constantly in motion, not because we're building something meaningful, but because slowing down would force us to face what's missing. That's the trap. We equate movement with progress, but the wise know motion without clarity is just noise. And the cost of that noise, it's not just your calendar, it's not just your energy, it's your life, drifting one unchecked moment at a time. The Stoics would say, if you want to know someone's priorities, don't ask them, watch them. And if you want to know your own, watch yourself. Track your time, not to judge yourself, but to see yourself, to become aware, to take back the reins, because every hour you spend is a piece of your life you'll never get back. That's not meant to create fear. It's meant to create clarity. Time is your most honest teacher, not because it explains anything, but because it simply reflects what is. So what is your time saying about you? Are you spending it in alignment with who you want to become? Or are you surviving on autopilot, numbing the discomfort of misalignment? Here's the shift. When you treat your time as sacred, your life begins to change. You start saying no more easily. You stop needing to justify your boundaries. You stop letting everyone and everything have immediate access to your attention. You begin to live deliberately, not reactively. You wake up not just to chase tasks, but to embody values. You listen longer. You breathe deeper. You get clear on what deserves your energy and what never did. And this isn't about perfection. You don't need to control every second. You just need to start honoring your time like the one currency that can't be earned back. Because when you do, something shifts. You stop measuring life in years and start measuring it in presence. You realize that how you spend your time is how you spend your life. So here's a question to sit with tonight. What did I give my life to today? Not what did you plan to do? Not what did you wish you had time for? But what did your actions, your hours, declare mattered most? You may not always like the answer, but that's how truth works. It's uncomfortable, but it's the beginning of freedom. You still have time. You're alive. And that means today is not too late to shift. Not everything has to be rebuilt. Sometimes it just takes one choice, 1 hour, one moment of presence to interrupt the pattern and reclaim your direction. So if time is your teacher, don't wait for it to scream. Listen while it still whispers. You're not too late, but you do need to begin. Memento mori, live fully because you will die. Let's pause for a moment and face the thing most of us are trained to avoid, the fact that we are going to die. Not someday in theory, but for real. You, me, everyone you love, everyone you envy. It's not if, it's when. And I know, that sounds heavy, maybe even morbid. But what if I told you that remembering this truth could actually set you free? The Stoics had a name for it, memento mori. Remember you must die. But don't misunderstand it. It's not about being gloomy. It's not about living in fear or spiraling into dread. It's about waking up, because when you truly grasp that your time is limited, you stop wasting it. You stop waiting for the perfect moment. You stop living for other people's approval. You stop numbing yourself with distractions, pretending that someday will eventually come. You start showing up with clarity. You start living with courage. You start loving with both hands open, because you know that everything, including this moment, is passing. And maybe that's what we forget. We live like we're going to be here forever. We act like time is an unlimited resource, but it's not. Time is the only thing you're guaranteed to lose. You can earn back money. You can rebuild relationships. You can recover health sometimes. But once a moment is gone, it's gone. So let me ask you something. What if you started living like you remember that? What if every morning, instead of grabbing your phone and jumping into the noise, you paused just for a second and said, this could be the last sunrise I ever see. This conversation could be the last I ever have with this person. This breath is not promised. How differently would you speak? How present would you be? How many petty things would you finally let go of? See, the modern world teaches us to avoid death at all costs. Anti-aging creams, overbooked calendars, filtered images. Even our language tries to soften the truth. We don't die, we pass. We don't say goodbye, we move on. But all that avoidance comes with a cost. Because when you push death out of your awareness, you also push out urgency, depth, and meaning. The Stoics weren't obsessed with death. They were obsessed with not wasting life. And you know what's wild? Some of the most alive people you'll ever meet are the ones who faced death up close. Someone who survived a terminal diagnosis, someone who's lost a loved one unexpectedly, someone who's been through the fire and come out changed. These people don't waste time anymore. They don't get stuck in drama. They don't care who's watching. They live like every moment matters, because it does. So why wait for a tragedy to give you that kind of clarity? Why not claim it now by choice? Why not let death not scare you but sharpen you? Let it strip away what doesn't matter. Let it humble your ego. Let it bring you back to the simplicity of being here, now, fully awake. Because memento mori is not a warning. It's an invitation to stop living half asleep, to stop chasing things that won't matter in the end, to stop putting your life on hold. Let me put it this way. If you had 1 year left, how much would you stop pretending? How many things would you finally say? How many things would you finally let go of? What would you finally allow yourself to start? Maybe you'd call your father. Maybe you'd forgive your ex. Maybe you'd take that trip. Maybe you'd write the book. Maybe you'd just slow down and drink coffee in the morning sun without guilt. You don't need to be dying to start living, but you do need to remember that you are not guaranteed another day. This is not meant to scare you. This is meant to remind you you are alive right now, and that is not a small thing. So what are you going to do with it? You don't need more time. You need more presence. You need more honesty. You need more connection with your values, with your people, and with the reality of your own impermanence. Because ironically, when you remember you'll die, you begin to live more fully. You laugh deeper. You let things go faster. You say, I love you while you still can. Memento mori. It's not about death. It's about honoring life. Right now, right here, with no more delay. You don't need more time. You need more presence. Let's talk about a belief that quietly ruins so many good intentions. You've probably said it before. I'll get to it when I have more time. When things settle down. When I'm not so busy. It sounds reasonable, responsible even. But here's the truth that might sting a little. You don't need more time. You need more presence. We live in a world obsessed with doing more, faster. We tell ourselves we need better time management, tighter routines, more efficient systems. But often what we really need is to stop and ask, what am I actually doing with the time I already have? Because if you look closely, it's not time that's slipping away. It's attention, it's focus. It's the quiet, moment-to-moment awareness of life as it's happening. And that's what presence is. Presence isn't just about mindfulness or meditation. It's about being where you are while you're there. fully, honestly, without the mental noise constantly dragging you somewhere else. The Stoics didn't preach productivity. They practiced presence. Even while facing war, exile, illness, betrayal, they returned to the moment again and again because they knew you can't control time, but you can control how you meet it. Let's be real. Our problem isn't lack of hours. Our problem is how we fill those hours with fragments. We open our phones just for a second. We jump from one tab to another. We listen to a conversation while thinking about an email, and then wonder why life feels rushed, hollow, disconnected. Modern psychology now confirms what ancient wisdom already knew. Your brain isn't designed for constant stimulation. Every notification, every dopamine hit from scrolling, every background noise, it pulls you out of your center. And when you're not centered, you're not really living. You're just reacting. So what's the cost of not being present? It's missing the beauty in front of you. It's drifting through days without remembering them. It's becoming a ghost in your own life. We say, I'm too busy. But often, busy is a disguise for disconnected. And I don't have time really means I don't have focus. The Stoics would tell you, if your life feels chaotic, don't add more. Remove, strip away, return. Because presence doesn't require more hours, it requires fewer distractions. Here are 3 powerful ways to return to presence, starting today. 1. Begin your day with one meaningful intention. Before the noise of the world floods in, before emails, news, or social media, pause. Ask yourself, what is one thing today that truly matters to me? Write it down. One task, one conversation, one moment you want to be fully present for, and treat that as sacred. Don't just fit it in, protect it. 2. Create space between your thoughts and your reactions. You don't have to respond to everything instantly. You don't have to be reachable all the time. Presence thrives in space, in pauses. Even taking 10 seconds to breathe before replying can bring you back to clarity. Because when you reclaim your pause, you reclaim your power. 3. Schedule silence. Not as a reward, but as a requirement. We often treat silence like a luxury, something we'll get to once the to-do list is done. But in reality, silence is where your real self speaks. You don't need hours. Start with 10 minutes. Sit without a screen. Listen. Reflect. Let your nervous system reset. Let your thoughts settle. Presence begins where noise ends. These may sound simple, and they are, but don't confuse simplicity with weakness. Some of the most life-changing habits come down to repeated quiet choices, choices to unplug, to notice, to be here, fully here. Because the truth is, presence builds power. It builds clarity. It deepens your experience of life, your relationships, your creativity. You start hearing things you used to miss. You start seeing beauty in moments you used to rush through. You start living instead of just managing. You don't need a perfect routine. You don't need 25 hours in a day. You don't need to wait until you feel ready. You just need to be where you are, and let that be enough. So ask yourself, where are you right now? Not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Are you really here? Or are you trapped in tomorrow, lost in comparison, haunted by what ifs? Because presence isn't passive, it's fierce, it's deliberate. It's the quiet decision to return to the only moment that truly exists, this one, and the more often you return to it, the more life begins to open up. Time doesn't need to expand. You just need to show up for it, fully, awake, unapologetically present. The simple practice of a wise life. A wise life is not busy, it is intentional. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you paused? Not out of exhaustion, not because your calendar allowed it, but because your soul needed clarity. We live in a world obsessed with motion. Do more, get more, be more. And yet so many people are still lost. Not because they're not trying hard enough, but because they've never stopped to ask, what exactly am I moving toward? You see, busyness is a cheap disguise. It makes us feel important, but often keeps us from what's truly essential. That's why the Stoics didn't preach hustle. They preached intention. Because a wise life isn't about packing every moment. It's about knowing what moments are worth packing. Choose less, but make it meaningful. This is not about minimalism for the sake of trends. It's about clarity. Imagine your day as a bowl. You only get to place a few things inside it. Would you rather fill it with noise or with nourishment? You don't need to say yes to every request, every opportunity, every distraction dressed up as productivity. When you choose less, you give yourself the chance to go deeper, deeper into relationships, deeper into presence, deeper into who you really are, without all the clutter. Slow down, but don't avoid. There's a difference between being still and being stuck. Wisdom isn't about hiding from the world. It's about meeting life from a place of calm, not chaos. When you move slower, you become more present. And presence is power. It's how you hear what your heart's been trying to whisper beneath the noise. It's how you show up, not just for the big moments, but the quiet ones that matter most. So many people are afraid that if they slow down, they'll fall behind. But ask yourself, behind what? Whose race are you running? The wise know. The goal is not to go fast. The goal is to go true. Speak honestly, love fully, rest deeply, act purposefully. That's not just a mantra, that's a map. Speak honestly, because life is too short for mass and half-truths. Love fully, because connection is what makes this wild ride worthwhile. Rest deeply, not out of guilt, but because you deserve restoration, not just recovery. Act purposefully, because every action is a vote for the person you're becoming. When you live like this, something changes. You stop performing, you start aligning, and in that alignment, life becomes less about pressure and more about peace. Let's pause here again. Let's reflect. What are you really living for? Is it survival, validation, fear of missing out? Or is it something deeper, something truer? The Stoics often reminded themselves of death not to be morbid, but to be present. They understood that life is too fragile to live by accident, too short to keep postponing clarity. So here's a powerful follow-up. What can you release to live with more clarity? Is it the need to always be busy? Is it the addiction to being needed? Is it the unconscious chase for perfection? Maybe it's a belief that says, if I'm not productive, I'm not worthy. But that's not wisdom. That's noise. That's conditioning. You're not here to be impressive. You're here to be intentional. So how do you practice wisdom in everyday life? It's simple. You begin the day with awareness. You make space, not just for tasks, but for truth. You let your actions reflect your values, not your fears. You learn to say no without guilt, and yes without resentment. You give yourself permission to live a life that feels clear, not just full, and you learn day by day that a wise life isn't built in grand gestures. It's built in quiet, repeated acts of clarity. Remember this, a wise life doesn't look dramatic. It often looks quiet, still, grounded. But beneath that calm is strength, the kind that doesn't need to prove itself, the kind that doesn't rush, because it knows where it's going. And if you slow down long enough, you'll know too. So today, maybe you don't need a bigger to-do list. maybe you just need a deeper reason. Live like a thank you. You may not be able to add more years to your life, but you can add more life to your years. Let me leave you with something simple, but not small. What if you lived your life like a thank you? Not like a performance, not like a race, but like a quiet, sacred act of gratitude, day after day. Too often we wait for big moments to be grateful, the promotion, the vacation, the miracle. But the Stoics remind us the gift is now, not next year, not someday. Now you woke up today. You have a mind that can reflect, a heart that can feel, a body that moves, even if imperfectly. And that's enough reason to live like it matters. We spend so much of our lives trying to add more years, more stuff, more achievements. But what if the real art of living wasn't about addition, but attention? What if the deepest kind of success wasn't measured by how much you got, but by how fully you showed up for what you already had? You see, you might not be able to control how long your life will be. None of us can. But you can choose how awake you are in the time you've been given. You can choose to love people while they're still here. You can choose to forgive, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. You can choose to start something meaningful or stop something toxic. You can choose to be present, not because life is short, but because it's precious. Gratitude in this sense is not a feeling. It's a practice. It's a posture. It's how you move through the world. You hold the door a little longer. You call the person you've been meaning to. You let go of the petty stuff you can't take with you anyway. You live like someone who understands that nothing is guaranteed. When you do that, life responds. Not always in ways you expect, but in ways that leave you less bitter, more grounded, and deeply alive. So here's the mantra I want to leave with you. Not as a quote on a wall, but as a commitment to carry forward. Life is short. Live wisely. Not wisely as in cautiously, not wisely as in fearfully, but wisely as in honestly, as in present, as in grateful for this one fragile, powerful life. Live like a thank you. Speak like a thank you. Rest like a thank you. Let your choices reflect the truth you already know, that this life, your life, is a miracle in motion. And the most powerful way to honor it is simply to live it on purpose. Let that be your practice. Not tomorrow, not when things are perfect, but now, because now is all we ever truly have. And if you've made it this far with me, thank you. Now go live like it matters.